Yeah.
Because it's just evident. We live in a judgmental society. If you want to admit it or not, it is the way it is. Yeah. Certain cultures clash. Certain cultures don't understand other cultures is getting better.
Yeah.
But it's up to people like myself, people like you, to break those stereotypes and change the paradigm.
All day, man.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Alonzo Williams, and you are now tuned in to the Everyday Stranger podcast. Yes. Look, I hope everyone enjoyed their weekend. Mine was quite interesting. A lot of lessons being learned, a lot of moments of discomfort, but nevertheless, growth always comes after. So I'm embracing every piece of the growth that comes my way. So yeah, anyway, you guys were just listening to a conversation that I was having over the phone with an individual who I truly believe, had it not been for him, that I probably wouldn't even be doing this podcast today. And I'm going to explain to you why. Got a story to tell. Once upon a time, I used to be an introvert. I mean, in a sense, I still am, but I've learned how to use my introversion at the right times. Normally these days, I'll become an introvert, and I use that as a way to recoup, to recover from being an extrovert. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a superhero who has like this superpower, but eventually he grows weak because, too much energy is being used at that current moment. So the other day I had called my mother because I really wanted to know how she viewed me growing up and how she sees me now. And so I called her and I asked her, like, how was I then compared to now? Like me growing up.
Well, compared to now, wow. You grew up very introverted, sensitive, but overall very loving person, very giving. I just see like that. Okay. The caterpillar and the butterfly.
Now, the caterpillar and butterfly reference that my mom is speaking of, there was a picture that she had tagged me on in Facebook. I think it was to wish me happy birthday. And basically it was like a meme of like a police officer pulling over a butterfly. The butterfly is actually driving the car. And the police asked the butterfly for its license and registration. So the butterfly gives the police his ID card, and it's a picture of a caterpillar on there. And the cop is looking like, wow, you look mighty different. And, that's what my mom is saying. She's saying that, like even like my previous ID card, if you look at that and you look at me now, you be like, yeah, this is like a whole new different person. So then how does one go from being an introvert to an extrovert, traveling the country and just meeting random people with no kind of fear at all, traveling out of the country, learning new languages and doing their best to communicate with people who are culturally different than you? Like, how does one become that, So I want to backtrack to January 2015, New York City. I met a guy named David through a mutual friend by the name of Naika, who's a dope stylist in New York. David, at the time, I believe he had like some kind of interest in photography. So what we did was we helped each other in a sense. And what David did was he showed me around New York so I can get some good pictures of the scenery and the people and everything. And I would kind of like answer his questions about photography, what kind of camera I use, my shooting style, what I like to shoot, and things like that. We were walking down Brooklyn and Williamsburg, to be exact. And I was trying to explain to him how I really want to take like pictures of people in New York, because of like the diversity that it holds. There's so many people out here who just have their own style and their own way of expressing themselves through fashion. So suddenly this lady's walking towards us, and she has this hat on that was just beautiful. Like, she looked great in it. Her whole outfit was just stylish, and instantly I was like, yo, I want to take a picture of her. So I look at David, and I'm like, yo, man, I see like people like that, bro. Like I want to get pictures of people like that. So David's like, go ask her. And in a sense, I kind of put myself on the spot because this wasn't something that I was familiar with doing. I wasn't the type of person who would just walk up to someone and ask if I could take their picture. Most of the time I was shooting from the hip, which means you're pretending that you're paying attention to something else while taking the picture of someone without them knowing, So this was definitely unfamiliar territory that I was entering. I'm nervous and I just didn't have the confidence. But when I approached her, it was like, hey, how you doing? And I kept saying, a lot, and I didn't make eye contact. And I'm like, yeah, I really like your hat. Can I get a picture of you? And before I could finish the sentence, she's like, nah, I'm sorry, I'm too busy right now. And then she walks off, like, even faster than she was normally. And that moment was like, ow, that hurt. It hurt bad. You remember that time when you was showing me, I think we was walking down Brooklyn, like near the Williamsburg area.
Yeah, it was in Williamsburg.
And it was this chick, man, like she was well dressed. And I asked if I could take her picture. She just kind of like just walked off. It discouraged me big time. I was like, man, I don't know if you remember that time.
I remember.
Yeah, it hurt.
It was right next to a graffiti wall.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
A block or two away from a graffiti wall.
It hurt, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, just ask them.
Yeah.
I noticed your reluctance, and it kind of takes away from your confidence. Like, oh, man, I don't want to get rejected all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One of the reasons I believe that I was an introvert was because, like, I didn't take rejection very well at the time. And a lot of this stems from, who knows what I was going through in my childhood, where maybe I felt like sometimes, like, my voice wasn't strong enough, or a lot of people used to like just cut me off while I was speaking, and they would kind of like over talk me. And I kind of grew up feeling like, my voice didn't matter to anybody. You know what I'm saying? So, I just stayed an introvert. So with me approaching that lady and then her rejecting me at the same time, that just kind of, fear won that battle this time. And I just I stopped taking pictures. It totally it paralyzed me mentally, and I just didn't want to take any pictures anymore. And suddenly I realized something. It went from me and David walking side by side having a conversation to me kind of just observing David. And I noticed something that was really fascinating to me. David was really good with people.
I remembered something. I'm not going to paraphrase. I don't remember verbatim, but I remember like a look, like you were giving me a look like, yo, this guy is insane. Like, fearless. Like,
it was crazy. I was like, yo, this man saying, hey, how you doing today, ma'am? Everything good? He over picking up wheelchairs for people. Yo, I learned a lot of shit from you, bro. I was like, yo, this dude is like,
yeah.
And the thing is like, you described like your physical features and everything. That was even more impressive because, again, like a lot of times that can develop a lot.
Come off intimidating.
Exactly.
Guy, you know what I mean?
But you become more you're more like proactive than reactive. So you don't really give people enough time to even think about that.
Exactly,
You know what I'm saying?
To pass that judgment. You know what I mean? Exactly.
So that night I went to my room and I really thought about like that moment that I had with David, where I had the opportunity to watch him actually engage in conversation with, all these random people in New York City. And, I thought about that all night, and I was like, man, I feel like I learned something very key in that moment. And I said, yo, I'm going to actually try to do the same thing the next morning. So I woke up the next morning, got dressed, took a shower, hit the subway to Manhattan. And needless to say, like I ended up meeting over 50 people that same day and asking if I could take their picture. And only out of those plus 50 people, only 2 people said no. And those were the first 2 people. So I had to go through the rejection twice in order for me to get over that hump of like rejection. Once when I warmed up, it was like, it was instinctive. I'm just talking to everyone. And the people I was taking pictures of, you can see a lot of the photos on my website, everydaystrangers.net. It was just a great amount of diversity in the collection of photographs that I had. And man, like I had this, when you face your greatest fears, not only facing them, but you conquer them, you feel like you ask yourself, like, what is there to be afraid of? You know what I'm saying? Like, you no longer have that fear because you conquered it. So in this case, it was like I took that moment that I had with David, those moments where I just studied him, and I took that everywhere I went around the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, confidence is key, intention is key, sincerity is key, and I just carry that with me every day. And I tell you guys, like right now, in all sincerity, like, had it not been that moment that I had with David, and had he not shown me around New York, or even, give me the opportunity to watch him speak to people on the street, I don't think that I would be doing this podcast, because what David has a gift of speaking to people. And I feel like he was able to share that with me. And that took me a long way in my career as an artist in general. Like, fam, where did you learn? Or was that learned? Was that something that you learned, like just how to speak to people like that? Or I mean, what, like, did someone teach you this, or it's just naturally is how did you become that person though? You know what I mean?
It's always been like, not always. I'll say I was shy. I was shy when I was younger, up until maybe 10, 11, right before my teenage years.
Yeah.
I was really shy. But I noticed humor, like making people laugh, it breaks the ice. Word. And like, what the fuck was I so timid about? Like, just overthinking, like if they're gonna like me. I was like a nerdy kid. The whole stereotype of wearing glasses and things like that. So I don't know if it was always there, but I know once I found out laughter like kind of breaks ice, and I was pretty good at making people laugh, like teachers and my classmates and stuff. It just took me to another level, and I just became fearless when it came to socializing. I could socialize with anybody.
After realizing that, like, David used to be once like kind of introverted or shy, as he describes it as well, it kind of made me feel like, maybe it's not so bad to think of your past as a bad thing. Like, me thinking of myself as an introvert, it probably wasn't such a bad thing at all. And, knowing that we all started from somewhere, and, that always gives me a sense of hope, for my future and others, So I just felt like it was really important that I let David know that I really appreciate him for the time that was spent out there in New York, and him showing me around, and not even realizing the lesson that he taught me. Man, bro, I had to let you know that, man, before anything.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. You kind of like made my evening just that, bro. Like, not a lot of times people give you props on certain things, and then what you're giving me props on is like it came from left field, and it's like, years ago. I still remember though. Yeah. You're still my brother, always. Yeah. But, I'm living life, and I'm not knowing that I had that impact on you, and it feels good for you to actually, you can go back in retrospect and give reference, like, you know what, I'm going to give this brother some credit. I appreciate you saying that I did play a role, but I did notice, like, oh, shit, look at Zoe, like, coming out of his shell. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, like, the whole theme of, I forget the everyday. It wasn't everyday people.
Everyday strange. Well, it was 100 strangers at first, and then
okay,
and then it transferred to everyday strangers. Yeah,
but like the whole theme is strangers, and then I'm sure it was a project in itself for you, therapeutic for you, to just walk upon strangers and, kind of tackle, not to say that it was a fear, but just being in that, stepping out of your comfort zone, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
But I see you a pro now. Like, it ain't nothing to you no more.
But it's funny though, right? Because the way how you explain how you became the person who you are, like that's been my story. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And when people ask me the same thing now. They be like, "Yo, like how are you able to speak to this person, or how are you able to? Aren't you afraid to do this?" AD, I'm telling you, and you say you got a gift, and I believe it, but I get a feeling like you gave some of that to me though, bro. Like, if it's one thing that I learned from all of this is that regardless of what your upbringing was or your current circumstances, of course, some of our circumstances have been far more challenging than others, depending on, again, how we were brought up. But at the end of the day, knowing that we were all created in God's image lets us know that there's definitely something inside of us that can help us overcome whatever obstacle is in front of us. So I say this: if we were indeed created by the most powerful force that the universe has to offer, then what thing on earth can possibly stop us from being the people that we truly want to be?
I would just notice the power of just communication and how you articulate yourself.
Mm.
Certain times when talking to people of paler complexion, the judgment comes primarily off of the physical appearance, but then when I open my mouth, I just look forward to kind of representing for my culture and for us as colored people. Like, yo, I know how to articulate myself. I'm not fronting. This is how I talk. I could do the hood thing, but I'm well versed. And once I got that down packed, it was like I'm invincible.
My name is Alonzo Williams, and this is the Everyday Strangers Podcast. Until next time, guys, peace and have a blessed week.